I'm no Jedi. Not by a long shot.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is an unfortunate day for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a video that I thought I wouldn't be doing. But before we get into any of that, my name is PGH Chris. Welcome here on the Sports Jedi Network to our football program, SJG, Gridiron Report Show. I'm your host, PGHChrisTv. Man, where do I begin? Let's get into it. George Pickens, breaking news this morning, has been traded to the Dallas Cowboys for a third-round pick next year in Pittsburgh, and I believe a fourth-round pick in 2027. Why? This has nothing to do with football, ladies and gentlemen. This has absolutely nothing to do with football. I mean, where do I begin? You signed DK Metcalf in the offseason. You're giving him over $100 million, if I'm not wrong. You're giving him so much money. You didn't have a quarterback for him lined up. But what did you have? You had a solid WR2 and George Pickens with Calvin Austin III as your third. And we have an up-and-coming star in Pat Freiermuth. What the fuck made you guys in the Steelers organization think that this was a good idea? What, because he might be a little bit of a diva? You dealt with Antonio Brown for how long? You dealt with Chase Claypool for a couple of seasons. You dealt with Martavis Bryant when he said he couldn't stay off the weed until the NFL had to get involved themselves and do it. What's wrong with Pickens when he's better than all of them except Antonio Brown? This guy is the reason why the Steelers and the fans had hope for any of the fucking games, especially in the playoffs. You see the impact on the field, especially in the offense when this guy isn't on the field. You got rid of the three best Steelers offensive players, Russell Wilson, Najee Harris, and now you just got rid of George Pickens. Now, let me go back a little bit. Why would you let Justin Fields walk out of the door? We're going to talk about the QB situation in a little bit, but why would you let Justin Fields? First off, this starts with this. It starts with this. Justin Fields walking out the door. Why isn't Justin Fields a Steeler? Why is he in New York? Why would you let that man walk out the door when he's won 4 games for us when it should have been 5? It's not his fault the defense can't stop the fucking Cowboys at the end of the game when it matters on a Sunday Night Football. Realistically, 5-1 with the Steelers, but 4-2 gave us an amazing run game. I mean, the run game was never alive before Justin Fields arrived in Pittsburgh. We haven't had a run game in years because of Ben Roethlisberger. But you got rid of him. Now, Najee, look, I think Jaylen Warren gets way more yards per carry, and he's a better player when it comes to, passes, running routes, getting up in the flat, and going upfield. We have Caleb Johnson, rookie out of Iowa. I mean, look, I'm not complaining about the running back position, but the wide receiver, look at this. Guys, this is not fake. Chef Dan, my co-host on the show, who's New York Giants correspondent. The first thing I do when I wake up is I check my Twitter DMs because of Sports Jedi Network business. I have a production. I have in my area. I help my friends. I have a little production thing going on, and I read Chef Dan send me that, and I thought that was fake. And then I looked up Adam Schefter, and I started going all on Instagram. My social media was blowing up. My friends, some of my family members were texting me like, guys, I didn't report it because I didn't think it was going to happen. I literally said on numerous occasions, stop. There was one point during the draft, and I said it during our watch along. I said, if the Steelers, from my sources, if the Steelers are going to have any plans to draft or trade for George Pickens, it's going to be during the draft this year. It didn't happen. And I don't know what to say. I don't know. This has nothing to do with football. It has nothing to do with football because there's certain players in any sport, any business. You have that one guy who might be a little bit of a drama queen, but you deal with it because he's good. I'm talking straight up on the field. That dude he was the best. He was the best player on the team. I mean, and you got DK, and there's still an opportunity to get Rodgers. Why the fuck would you let this man go? Why? Now the Cowboys think they're good and think they're going to do something. They're not. Because guess what? Him and CeeDee Lamb are still... could this... Look, I wonder multiple things. Because people... the Crash Out brothers, DK, Metcalf, and George Pickens, whatever. You don't think him and CeeDee Lamb are going to have the same fucking problem? You don't think CeeDee... You know how CeeDee Lamb's not going to have nearly as many targets as he had last season. I mean, I think not us having a quarterback is a big thing, and I don't know. This trade came out of nowhere, and I know there were reports, there were rumors about it, but again, those weren't my sources telling me. I didn't expect the trade. I don't know what else to say. It makes we're not rebuilding. We're taking a step backwards. In my opinion, we had a decent draft. I'm gonna get into that, but this is just something I had to talk about. This is breaking news coming out. This has again. I don't know what in the football. What could this possibly have anything to do with football? Is it because he showed up 90 minutes late or 90 minutes before kickoff during our Christmas game? Because he's a little bit and he was dealing with a hamstring injury at the time. Is it because we forced him to play with the fucked up hamstring because we were desperate to win the AFC North and then get a home playoff game for the first time in how long because we were third in the fucking AFC for half the year and we blew it? It's not his fault. It's not George Pickens' fault that our defense at certain points can't stop a run game. They can't stop Derrick Henry. Worked out the first game, but that second game was awful. It was awful. And I get it. Sometimes George Pickens takes the plays off on the run, doesn't block. I think DK's better. I'm not saying that George Pickens is Terrell Owens or fucking Jerry Rice. He's not even a top 5 receiver in the league right now. I know that. But for a team that doesn't have any value, that has nobody, this is all we had. And we got DK, one of the best receivers in the fucking league. Everybody last year wanted a wide receiver too. And now we have one. And we had one. If we don't get somebody like a Keenan Allen or I don't want Gabe Davis that just got released from Jacksonville. I mean, we're in a dead situation when it comes to the wide receiver core. And that was the only thing I was confident about going into the season right now at this time at 5:20 in the afternoon on May 7th. I don't know. When more news gets happened about that, we got a third round pick, and a fourth rounder for next year in 2 years, which that's absolutely ridiculous. Are you guys trying to flop to get an Arch Manning or something next year? Quarterback class isn't that great. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Drew Allard is awful. The kid from Penn State, he ain't good. You're going to see it this year without Tyler Warren. Arch might have a good year. The kid from Arizona State might have a good year. I don't know, man. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I talked a lot about the draft. And before we talk about the draft, I think one of the biggest stories going into the draft was, where's Shedeur Sanders going to go? I know me and Chef were really intrigued. I know I was, because we saw this guy be projected at one point the number one overall pick, and then we kind of came to the realization that Cam Ward was going to be the number one, and then he went to number 3, then went to number 4, 6, 12, 9, and now 21, and now Shedeur Sanders got drafted in the 5th round. He got drafted in the 5th round by the Cleveland Browns. Also, there was a prank call done. Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich's son pretended to be the Saints general manager and gave him a prank call. How immature do you have to be? I know Stephen, again, a lot of these people, Stephen A., they've talked about this. I haven't, and I'm going to give my opinion on this situation. First off, with the prank call. I mean, that's just, look, I'm seeing so much bullshit online. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. Back in my day, this was just a joke. What if your son was getting drafted on the biggest night of his life to go play for an NFL team, and some college kid whose daddy's a Falcon, a member, a well-respected coach / former player in the league, prank calls your son and says, hey, we want to take you, but you're going to have to wait, or something like that. I'm not even going to play the video because it's been played already so many times, but it's completely immature. This was a 20-year-old. I'm 22 years old. If I had anybody that had that type of authority, why the fuck would I? I'm grown. That kid was 21 years old. Not a kid. He's a 21-year-old grown-ass man who should known better. His daddy's probably paying for his college. And you almost sabotaged his entire freaking career. You should be fucking ashamed of yourself, kid. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should feel embarrassed. I hope everybody at Ole Miss University, because I think that's where he goes, I hope they all make fun of you. I hope they all bully you, because that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable in any sport, any athlete. And this is a kid who already had so much hate going into the draft because of who his daddy is. I watched college football, and you know what? I talked about how I might not cover it, and I might, because I'm tired of seeing you people determine an opinion when I know you haven't seen the kid play in college. I cover college football. Half of you guys don't. You go by off what Mel Kiper, Peter Schrager. You go by off what all these NFL analysts on ESPN say. And you don't sit the time to actually watch and film study like I do. It's ridiculous. Now, Shedeur falling into the draft it's a shocker, because there's so many fucking teams on this draft that needed a quarterback. You're going to tell me the Giants wanted Jackson. They really traded up for Jackson Dart. I understand getting Abdul Carter, even though I personally thought the Cleveland Browns were stupid not to draft Abdul Carter with them getting Myles Garrett back, but that's a whole nother conversation. You get Abdul Carter with the third round. You trade up for another pick in the first round after Shador does not get drafted by the Steelers. Okay. We took Derek Hartman out of Oregon, defensive tackle in the first round with the 21 overall pick. I didn't expect that. I actually got the alerts. I didn't. For the Steelers, I actually wanted to be surprised. But all I heard was Shador. I could have sworn Shador was going to be a Steeler. But then he wasn't going to be a Steeler. The Steelers picked up on him, and then the draft is getting over, and we're getting this. We're kind of starting to end the stream. As we're going to end our watch along, we get a note. We see on the draft board that the New York Giants traded up. Oh my God, they're getting Shador. They're getting Shador and Abdul. They got Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss. That shocked me. Now, you could argue a couple things, right? Shador played in the Big 12. Jackson Dart played in the SEC. When you look at Jackson Dart's more memorable wins, more memorable moments, dude beat Georgia. Had a great game against Georgia. I like Jackson Dart. It's a tough one. It's a tough one because when I look at film, I see with Shador, I see a more calm but his offensive line's not great. But I see a little more calm, step back. He can move around, make some good throws on the run. That is clutch in situational moments when he needs a Hail Mary thrown down the field. Jackson Dart, he's a quick kid. He's athletic. He can run. I mean, it's a tough call. I don't know if that had anything to do with football either. There were reports going out that some of these GMs, and I think they were anonymous, unless the Giants GM came out and said something, or the coach. But for the most part, they said that their meetings with him were awful. He came in there cocky. He came in there just, who he is, who people think he is. And, he even went on social media and was like, look, I could have approached things better, this and that, but he's here to work. And I believe he could be the starter for the Cleveland Browns week 4. Deshaun Watson is done. I think his football career is done. I think the Cleveland Browns know that. I think he knows that. If I'm not mistaken, I've heard somebody from the Cleveland organization say that could have been one of the worst investments they made in franchise history. Dylan Gabriel got drafted before fucking Shador. Can we talk about that? Dylan Gabriel is the definition of a San Francisco Niners quarterback. And what I mean by that is anybody can run that fucking offense. And that's the same thing that happened at Oregon. When you look at, this is Dylan Gabriel. Read option, throw into the flat, throw a bubble, read option, throw a slant, and run the ball. This guy literally plays in an offensive system where he can just give the ball to his receivers and his running backs, and they do the entire thing. He's so fucking overrated. That defense carried Oregon half to the season. Tez Johnson, in my opinion, he didn't even get drafted, and it's because he didn't have a good stock. It's because he didn't have a quarterback. Why do you think that? Tell me. Look at the stats. His stats should be higher. But it's because Oregon, they love to run the veer speed options offense, where it's just pitch, fake the handoff pitch, fake the handoff bubble, fake the handoff slant. That's all Oregon does. So I don't know why Dylan Gabriel was drafted ahead of Shador. He's not going to be the fucking starting quarterback for the Browns. You got Joe Flacco, who's who should be in a retirement center. And then you got Shador. So you would, it's a weird situation with this. I didn't like the way it played out. Ultimately though, I'm happy for Shador. Shiloh also getting signed as an undrafted free agent to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a safety. So it ended up being a successful draft weekend for the Sanders family, but you know, a lot of unnecessary things with the NFL GMs to the prank calls. I don't think he deserved that. But we got it right here. 5th round pick, 144 overall, quarterback out of Colorado. Shador Sanders is a Cleveland Brown. So I'm going to say that to say we're still going to kick his ass in the playoffs in the regular season because we play the Browns twice a year, being in the AFC North. So we're gonna have to see where that goes, but it's gonna be a good one. I can't stand all the it's just a joke because it's not. You don't fuck with somebody's life like that. You don't fuck with somebody's dreams. Again, the NFL GMs, I just think it had a little bit more to do than just the game of football. And I think a lot of teams, including ourselves, might regret it, but I don't know because we are going to talk about our draft, the Steelers, their draft results. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to tell you the ones I like. I don't mind Derek Hartman, defensive tackle out of Oregon, being our number 1 overall pick because this was Chef alluded to this too during our watch along. This was a very defensive line oriented draft, and we saw that kind of start flowing out in the first round. And I didn't mind that there. He actually was one of Oregon's, we played him twice and he came in, he was probably the best on the field on the defensive side. So I don't mind that. Running back, Caleb Johnson, again out of Iowa. He's one of those guys where if he sees a wide open spot or if he sees down the field open when he gets the ball, he's more of a, outside runner. He's gone. And he'll take it for yards. I don't think that's a bad pick. And a 3rd round pick, 83 overall. That's kind of a steal. Jack Sawyer in the 7th round. Oh no, in the 4th round, 123rd overall pick. That shocked me. I did not expect that, and I love it. Listen, I wanted a wide receiver so bad during this draft. That's only if Emeka Egbuka was still on the board. He ended up getting drafted, I believe, 19 overall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I was like, damn. Like, I really wanted that guy to be a Steeler, especially being an Ohio State fan. But being an Ohio State fan, we got 2. But Jack Sawyer is going to fit great into the system. He's going to learn under Cam Hayward, Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith, and the fucking GOAT, TJ Watt. I mean, that defensive edge group, that pass rush group in Pittsburgh is looking fucking scary. That's one of the, positives we could talk about right now. That's I know we praise, I know people expect the Steelers to have a good defense every year. And I think this is the beginning of that. Not the beginning of that, because we've always had great defense, but you saw our defense kind of shift in the middle of the season last year. So I think you're going to have more guys to rotate. You could have a package. Obviously you're going to have Highsmith, Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, whatever, but you could have your package to where, you could throw a Nick Herbig in there, and then you could throw Jack Sawyer, them both, to give those 2 guys a rest. I mean, that's a fucking phenomenal pick. Will Howard, quarterback, Ohio State, 6th round, 185th overall. I like it. I popped. I didn't expect it. People say he's the most overrated quarterback in the draft, but he's the only one in that draft with one of these, a ring, a national championship title. Without Will Howard, we don't get to the national championship. And I know it's a lot, Jeremiah Smith, but the throws, the accuracy, the ability to move. He's like 6 something and he can move. It's so good to see a quarterback in Pittsburgh that can move. Again, this will be my next subject, but I'm curious to see where he falls in line, especially when we don't know what's going on. You know what? Let's talk about that. But this draft overall, I like it. I'm not disappointed. I'd give it a B plus. I still think you could have gotten a quarterback early. You could have gotten a Shador, a Jackson Dart, whatever. And you could have gotten a receiver. Those are just the 2 things I would have gotten personally in this draft. Too many D-line. Too many D-line. Defensive heavy. Too defensive heavy. But B plus. Solid talent. It makes sense. I'm excited to see what the Steelers do, especially with rotations on the defensive side. Let's talk about this, and this will be the last kind of segment that I talk about. But again, one more time, this was the final wrap-up for our draft. It looks pretty good. I want to shout out Dante Kent, who was our last pick of the draft in the 7th round. He is a 717 native. He is from Harrisburg. He's from right up the street. Shout out Dante, Harrisburg Cougar. It's going to be fun watching him, do his thing coming from Central Michigan, being from my area. But this is the wrap. This is kind of our, this is who we drafted. This is the results, and B plus, I'd give it. I enjoy it. Again, let's go back to our last segment of the show. Who will be QB1 in Pittsburgh? Well, with George Pickens getting traded, it's does that influence Rodgers? I still think Rodgers is going to be their quarterback. Like it or not. I don't know if I even like to say it. Excuse me. I don't even know if I'd like to say it. But at this point, it's if we can get like a Keenan Allen or something, and we could add Aaron Rodgers into the system, I wouldn't mind it. The problem is, again, he did go on Pat McAfee and say he would play for $10 million. I think that's bullshit. I think he's going to want at least 30. Especially with all the shit that he's going on personally, all that shit. He's going to want more. He's going to say, I'm Aaron fucking Rodgers. Give me 30 million. I don't believe the 10. And if he's playing for 10 million, it's only going to be for a season, which leads me to kind of the question. Do we want to think about the future, which we already got rid of that with Justin Fields? Do you want to think about the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years? Or do you want to worry about saving Mike Tomlin's non-losing season record and only having a good year now? Because I don't give a shit about Mike Tomlin's record. We haven't won a playoff game since 2016. It's been almost 10 years since the Steelers have won a fucking playoff game. And you're going to tell me you're going to get rid of your best player and not have a quarterback? Our quarterbacks are Skylar fucking Thompson and Mason Rudolph. Let's talk about Mason Rudolph, right? Mason Rudolph is somebody who's come in clutch big time for the Steelers when we needed him to the most. Got us in the playoffs. But he isn't somebody who's going to fucking do that all season. He's not. He's not. Go watch him in Tennessee. He's not. I wouldn't look if Aaron Rodgers isn't a Steeler. You start Will Howard, damn it. You start Will Howard. Get him another receiver. Go get Keenan Allen. And get Will Howard back there. Because here's my thing. If you add Aaron Rodgers. Arthur Smith does not have to be a fucking offensive coordinator for the Steelers. That man could have had head coaching gigs. He could be at home relaxing, and he's a great offensive mind. I do not want Aaron Rodgers to go in there thinking that he can just make the offense around him, because it's not gonna fucking happen, and it better not. Make your offense around Will Howard if you're making an offense around anybody. If not, know what you know about these players. Figure out good schemes, good formations. Figure out the wide receiver position. Roman Wilson still has not played a fucking snap. We're in some deep shit. We're in deep water, Steelers fans. We're in deep water. And it's disappointing. We're taking a step backwards and not a step forward. I don't think Mike Tomlin has a say in this. I think it's all Omar and the Rooneys. I don't know what else to say. I kind of just wanted to talk to you guys about that because it's been on my mind. I didn't want to make an emergency video because I needed some time to think about, the situation and stuff like that. But this has been, kind of the breaking news, the draft results for the Steelers, George Pickens, Shador here on the SJG Gridiron Report. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm, again, your host, PGHChrisTv. Please subscribe to the Sports Jedi Network. We are at 20,000 subscribers. Hopefully, Chef Dan will be joining me soon on an episode. He should be doing his own thing soon with the Giants. So it's going to be a great season. So far, it's going to be a long season, but I'm excited. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully, nothing crazy breaks out, but if any breaking news breaks out, I'll be sure to keep in touch. So have a good one, guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.